March 10th, 1945. Tokyo. Various places within the city were set afire. That is the official word, issued that morning by Imperial General Headquarters, broadcast on NHK, printed in the next day's press, delivered to the Japanese people as the full account of what had happened above their heads the night before. 16 square miles of ash, 267,000 buildings gone, canal water still warm from the heat of a firestorm that had torn aircraft from the sky, 100,000 dead. A figure the government has not shared and will not share. The smell of burning will hang over Tokyo for days. Various places within the city were set afire. What kind of government produces that sentence? What architecture of control? What years of careful construction? What machinery of language and silence does it take to reduce 100,000 dead to various places? And what does it cost a government to keep building that architecture, raid by raid, communique by communique, all the way to the morning when it finally breaks? The story is not the bombers, though they are the mechanism. Not the strategy, though it will be traced. The story is the gap between what Tokyo said and what was burning. That gap did not open on March 10th, 1945. It was built carefully over 3 years. The sentence has a history. That history begins before the first bomb fell. Before the bombers arrived, there was a promise. For the first 3 years of the Pacific War, the Japanese government told its people something simple. The sacred homeland could not be reached. America's aircraft lacked the range. The home islands stood apart from the war's ruin. Spiritually protected, militarily inviolable, beyond the reach of any enemy. This was not pure invention. Through most of 1942 and all of 1943, it was substantially true. No American aircraft could carry a bomb to Japan and return alive. The promise rested on fact. The Doolittle raid cracked that fact, briefly. April 18th, 1942. 16 North American B-25 Mitchell medium bombers launched from the carrier USS Hornet, struck Tokyo and several other cities and crash-landed in China. Minimal damage. No strategic consequence. The government framed it correctly as an act of desperation. And when no American aircraft returned for 2 years, the framing held. The crack sealed over. That silence, April 1942 through the summer of 1944, was enormously useful. The propaganda apparatus did not simply wait, it built. NHK, the National Broadcasting Service, operated under direct military command. Major Tsuneshi had installed an office inside Radio Tokyo and issued orders through Bureau Chief Yoshio Muto. All news broadcasts became official communiques. Every major newspaper, the Asahi, the Mainichi, the Yomiuri, ran in lockstep with the approved narrative. And beneath that, woven into the fabric of every neighborhood in every city, were the tonarigumi, the block associations, thousands of them, transmitting official information downward to every household and monitoring civilian morale upward to the government. Information moved in one direction. Morale reports moved in the other. The system had no gaps. By the time the first B-29 appeared over Japanese territory, this apparatus had been running for 3 years. It had a language, a tone, a set of reflexes. It knew exactly what to say and exactly how to say it. What it did not know, officially, was what was coming. But some people did know. While the propaganda promised an inviolable homeland, the military was already reorganizing its defenses against a threat it had not disclosed. Japanese agents in China reported B-29 movements through the summer of 1944. Intelligence services deduced that once logistical preparations were complete, heavy bombers would strike factories in northern Kyushu. The 3 Imperial Japanese Army Air Force air brigades stationed in Honshu. and Kyushu were expanded to full air divisions between March and June of 1944. The 10th, 11th, and 12th Air Divisions reorganized, rearmed, repositioned. The government was preparing for raids it had publicly implied were impossible. The propaganda's adjustment was a masterpiece of plausible deniability. Articles appeared asserting that American air raids from Saipan would be impossible, while acknowledging that raids from China were theoretically conceivable. Read carefully enough, the construction was legible. By pretending to discuss China, the apparatus was quietly preparing the population for what was coming from Saipan. The message was there, encoded, deniable. The people who needed to hear it clearly were the last ones who would. The Japanese civilian population moved through the spring and early summer of 1944 in possession of only the official story. Their military was building an air defense network against an attack it had not told them to expect. And somewhere over the Himalayas, Boeing B-29 superfortresses were loading bombs and computing fuel loads for the most distant bombing raid in the history of American air power. June 15th, 1944. Northern Kyushu. It is almost midnight when the first silver shapes appear over the industrial port of Yawata. The Imperial Iron and Steel Works, one of the backbones of Japan's wartime production, sits dark against the coastline, blackout in effect. The searchlights come up first, columns of white light sweeping the black sky. Anti-aircraft batteries open, orange-red bursts flowering at altitude. The drone of the B-29's 4 radial engines per aircraft, multiplied across 48 aircraft, moves through the streets below like something the body feels before the ears hear it. One bomb strikes the steelworks. 5 B-29s are lost to accidents. 2 more go down to Japanese fighters, which scramble every available aircraft but attack in uncoordinated small groups without central guidance once airborne. The raid is, by any honest military measure, a near total failure. What Tokyo says, defensive success, massive enemy losses. The implication, never stated directly, that this is America's best effort. What the military does, quietly in the weeks that follow, it begins expanding the fighter force protecting the home islands. By October, 375 aircraft are assigned to home defense. The government knows exactly what Yawata means. It simply will not say. The Americans know what Yawata means too, and they know why it failed. The China-based campaign, Operation Matterhorn, is broken at its foundations. To fly one bombing mission requires 12 logistics flights over the Himalayas first. Crews averaging 30 hours of B-29 training before deploying to combat. The political pressure for early operations coming directly from Roosevelt, running for an unprecedented 4th term, who had promised Chiang Kai-shek the bombers would fly, and who faced strong conservative opposition at home and needed the headline. The decision to deploy early was driven as much by domestic political calculation as military necessity, and it showed in every raid. But geography was already solving the problem. Between June and August of 1944, American forces seized the Marianas Islands, Saipan, Tinian, Guam. Construction crews began building airfields before the ground fighting ended. 6 major bases, each positioned exactly 1,500 miles south of Tokyo. Japanese reconnaissance aircraft photographed the construction from altitude. The crews debriefed. The photographs went to Imperial General Headquarters. The runways were being extended. The dispersal areas expanded. The conclusion was unavoidable. The Americans were coming from the south, and they were coming at scale. The man charged with leading that campaign was Brigadier General Haywood Stilwell Possum Hansel Jr. 39 years old, slender, almost professorial in bearing, a man who had spent a decade arguing that the bomber was not merely a weapon, but a philosophy. He had written the strategic air war plans. He had fought the political battles to create the 20th Air Force as an independent command, reporting directly to Washington. He had secured the Marianas bases. He had designed the precision bombing doctrine, specific industrial targets, daylight attacks, surgical destruction of the enemy's capacity to make war, without the mass killing of civilians that other approaches required. To Hansel, precision bombing was both effective and humane. He had staked his professional life on the idea. He had planned to personally lead the first mission. General Arnold ordered him not to fly. Too much sensitive information in his head. He watched another officer take his seat. November 1st, 1944. Before any bomb falls on Tokyo, a single unarmed B-29 appears over the city in broad daylight. A reconnaissance aircraft. It crosses the western districts at altitude, photographs what it needs, and departs without a scratch. No Japanese fighter reaches it. Anti-aircraft bursts bloom and dissolve far below. For every Japanese citizen who looked up that morning, the sight of that silver shape, high, unhurried, moving calmly over the imperial capital, communicated something the government had not said and would not say. The promise of the inviolable homeland was a lie. Everyone who looked up knew it. No communique addressed what they saw. 23 days later, the bombers arrived in force. November 24th, 1944, Isley Field, Saipan. Brigadier General Emmett Rosie O'Donnell, 38 years old, West Point graduate, former halfback, broad-shouldered, takes the pilot's seat of a B-29 named Dauntless Dottie. The aircraft commander, Major Robert Morgan, sits to his right. Behind them, over 1,000 miles of open Pacific, 110 more B-29s are climbing to altitude. The target is the Nakajima Hikoki aircraft engine plant at Musashino, in a western suburb of Tokyo. Believed to produce more than 30% of all Japanese combat aircraft engines. It is the second priority on the target list. It is chosen specifically because it will produce the headline, "Tokyo Bombed." At 30,000 feet, the jet stream hits them. No American planner had fully accounted for this, a permanent high-altitude river of air, moving at 120 miles per hour, flowing east over the Japanese archipelago. It catches the B-29s and pushes them across their aiming points at 450 miles per hour, faster than any bomb sight can compensate for. The bombs scatter. 24 of 111 aircraft hit the factory area at all. The fires that do start are quenched by the plant's own fire brigade before they can spread. One B-29 goes down to a Japanese pilot in a damaged Ki-44 Shoki fighter who feared his aircraft could not make it back to base and decided not to go alone. He rams the bomber. It goes into the Pacific 20 miles off the coast, taking everyone aboard. The headline runs, "Tokyo Bombed." American morale soars. What the factory thinks of the whole affair is another matter. What Tokyo says, defensive success, enemy repulsed, massive bomber losses. The same formula used at Yawata, deployed again with practiced discipline. Both governments have shaped the same failed raid for opposite audiences. The factory is barely scratched. The headlines are exactly as planned. And in the gap between those two facts, the real war is still being conducted. Through December 1944 and into January 1945, Hansel's precision campaign continues and continues to fail. The jet stream is not a weather anomaly. It is the permanent meteorological reality over Japan at high altitude, and it renders the Norden bomb site nearly useless. Musashino is struck again and again. It keeps producing engines. In January 1945, Hansel is relieved of command. His replacement comes from the European theater. Major General Curtis LeMay, stocky, heavy-jawed, a cigar always nearby, does not discuss decisions he has already made. He looks at the same facts as Hansel and draws the opposite conclusion. Precision daylight bombing at a high altitude in jet stream winds is hitting nothing. Low-altitude incendiary attack at night against wood and paper cities will hit everything. This was not improvisation. In 1943, American planners had already built a replica Japanese village at the Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah and burned it down systematically, confirming exactly what incendiary weapons would do to Japanese construction. The knowledge had existed for 2 years. LeMay was simply the man willing to use it. He strips the B-29s of their gun turrets and armor to accommodate a larger bomb load. He drops the altitude from 30,000 feet to 5,000. He orders night operations. His subordinates tell him the plan is reckless. He tells them to prepare the aircraft. Hansel, the architect of the 20th Air Force, the man who secured the bases, wrote the doctrine, fought every political battle to bring the campaign to this point, is gone before his first target burns. March 9th, 1945. Bases across the Marianas, 334 B-29s, loaded not with general-purpose bombs, but with incendiaries. B-46 cluster bombs releasing napalm-carrying bomblets, M47 canisters of jellied gasoline and white phosphorus. The target is the Shitamachi district, the densely packed working-class neighborhoods of Koto and Chuas wards near the docks. Wood frame houses, paper walls, packed so tightly that the blocks form a single continuous fuel source. The weather is ideal. A dry northwest wind of 20 to 28 miles per hour. Cold, clear air. Conditions for fire to travel. Pathfinder aircraft arrive after midnight and mark the target with a burning X. Napalm on both axes of the aiming point. By the time the main force approaches, the X is visible from 150 miles away. It is no longer a marker, it is already a fire. At 5,000 feet, the B-29s cross over it. The firestorm below tears at the aircraft. Thermal updrafts launch doors and window frames to altitude. The turbulence rips the wings from one B-29 outright. Crew accounts describe the smell of burning coming through the aircraft's seals. Below them, the people of Shitamachi are running toward the canals. The canals are growing warm. Dawn on March 10th reveals 16 square miles of ash. 267,000 buildings, 1 million people with no home to return to. The dead number roughly 100,000. The Tokyo Fire Department counts 97,000. The Metropolitan Police Department estimates more than 124,000. The honest answer is that no one can count them precisely, because in many places there is nothing left to count. It is the deadliest bombing raid in the history of human conflict. Imperial General Headquarters issues its communiqué the morning of March 10th, 1945. Various places within the city were set afire. The apparatus has been running for 3 years. It has phrases calibrated to acknowledge just enough to be believed and conceal just enough to prevent panic. The machine produces the sentence it was built to produce, and then the machine encounters the scale of what it is describing, and the sentence is simply all it has left. Rumors spread within hours. They do not need to travel far. The people of Tokyo are looking at the evidence with their own eyes. The smoke is still rising, the ash is still warm. Half the city knows someone who is in Shitamachi. The gap between the communique and the reality is not a gap anymore. It is the absence of all language. But then something shifts. On March 11th, the following morning, the same government that issued various places makes a different calculation. The meeting house raid is too large to keep small. The decision is made to weaponize it. Stories about the attack appear on the front page of every major newspaper. The framing is not damage. The framing is outrage. American barbarism. The deliberate targeting of civilians. Photographs of destroyed B-29s. No photographs of the dead. On March 10th, the government suppressed the scale of the raid to prevent panic. On March 11th, it amplified the scale of the raid to manufacture rage. Both statements cannot be true. Neither was the whole truth. The apparatus had no principle beyond control. Suppression and amplification were the same instrument, pointed in whatever direction the moment required. Through spring and into summer, the B-29s come back. Osaka, Nagoya, Kobe, Kawasaki. The raids grow larger and the damage compounds. American propaganda leaflets fall from the same aircraft that dropped the bombs, technically illegal to read, universally read. The leaflets name cities. The cities are then struck. The government's language has nothing left to say about a campaign that announces itself in advance. And then the fighters stop coming. It happens without announcement, without communique, without any official word at all. The Imperial Japanese Army Air Service makes the decision quietly, internally. Preserve the aircraft for the expected Allied invasion. Stop spending what cannot be replaced on raids that cannot be stopped. When 444 B-29s strike Osaka, not one Japanese fighter rises to meet them. For the Japanese citizens who watch this, who look up and see the silver shapes overhead, uncontested, the anti-aircraft bursts blooming uselessly far below. No statement is issued. None is needed. The government that had controlled every syllable broadcast to the Japanese people, that had spent 3 years constructing the architecture of official truth, communicated the most devastating fact of the entire war through pure absence. The bombers come. Nothing rises. And everyone watching already knows what that silence means. August 15th, 1945. At noon, for the first time in the history of Japan, the Emperor speaks directly to the common people of his nation, not through a communique, not through NHK's approved text. His own voice, on a phonographic recording broadcast over the very radio network that had spent 3 years delivering the military's approved reality. His language is classical court Japanese, formal, elevated, difficult for many of his own subjects to fully pass. But the meaning is not difficult. I do not believe that my nation could continue to fight this war. He swallows his own tears. Japan accepts the Allied proclamation. The propaganda apparatus that had controlled every word broadcast to the Japanese people ended in the voice of the man it had always spoken for, saying the one thing it had been built to prevent saying. Former Prime Minister Fumimaro Konoe, who had watched the apparatus construct itself from inside the government, said it plainly after it was over. The determination to make peace had been the prolonged bombing. September 2nd, 1945. Tokyo Bay. The Japanese delegation stands on the deck of the battleship USS Missouri to sign the documents ending the war. As the ceremony concludes, a large formation of B-29 superfortresses sweeps low over the bay. It is, as one account recorded at the time, a reminder the Japanese really did not need. Over 50% of Tokyo had been reduced to ash. The rubble said everything the communiques had withheld. Somewhere in the years that follow, Haywood Hansell, the man who designed the 20th Air Force, secured the Marianas bases and wrote the precision bombing doctrine, continues to argue that his approach was right, that it was both more effective and more humane than what replaced it. He argues it carefully, methodically, with the same intellectual precision he brought to everything. He argues it until 1988, when he dies at 84. His replacement's methods killed 100,000 people in a single night, helped end the war, and worked. Hansell never stopped believing there had been a better way. He was the American mirror of the apparatus this story has followed. A man holding to an official position that reality had long since refused to confirm. March 10th, 1945. Tokyo. Various places within the city were set afire.